All right, good morning. How we doing out there? It's Friday. This is go time for real estate agents. I'm fired up this morning. Who's got something good to share with the world? Who's got a deal they just put together? Who's got something they just saved? What do we got out there? Talk to me, people. Are we going right into our finance? We got our Finance Friday boys with us. We can get into some finance. We can talk Semper Home loans if you guys want. Boy, I love when you guys are interactive. Martin, you always save me, Martin. It's like, man,
listen,
I love it. Look
for
at you.
something.
You got camera on, hand up, ready to share on a Friday. Let's go.
So got a client, first call, let's just say they're down south. I'm trying to be very politically correct on this one. Calls me telling about, she wants to move from there to here. Showed him a few homes, but right off the bat, it was everything deals with politics. She wants to live in a town that is a certain way. Everything. I'm trying to be so careful when I'm talking to her because our first interaction was she was talking about her daughter and how she's not allowed to do what she wants to in the state that she lives to because she's a woman. Um, and I gave her a couple and they're like, no, this is 50-50. I really want one that a town that's more sways this way versus that way. And the towns that are like that, she can't afford. And I shouldn't say she can't afford. It's not in her price range. Let me say that way. And I'm just trying to get how she's getting the information because when it comes to politics, I don't do politics. Like, are there websites that tell me like, hey, there, and I try to find it and I couldn't. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong way of if a town's more left or right. I guess that's what I'm asking.
Well, just the first thing that I love that you're doing here is just not getting involved in this stuff, right? So I think the best way is always, when it comes to this stuff or it comes to protected classes, is to provide resources for people to do their research. Because typically, I don't think we see it in politics, but we definitely see it with, let's say, crime rates or school ratings, or and there's a million different ways to look at this stuff. So providing resources for clients that they can get the data on their own, I definitely think is the best way to go. As far as how the politics go, I have no idea if there is a way to get that. I'm assuming that there is, and I don't know if anybody has that info on a place where you would get data like that. Does anybody come across this and know a way to get the data?
Each individual town has it right there. If you just call the town, they know. Like if you look at, like, John Velas has a thing of Massachusetts, right? He's the senator, and it has
Yep.
town by town by town. I don't know how accurate it is. I don't even know you know what I mean? But it will say how many went which way.
What site is that, Chris?
I don't know if it's a site. I did have someone ask once, not too long ago, and I just had him call the city clerk, and the city clerk in Westfield gave them something. I don't know what the resource is, but I am good friend. I am friends with John, so I can ask him later if there's a way.
Just like you can look up like a map of like the election results, and you can look it up nationally and see who won each state. They'll even break it down like within the state. I know in Rhode Island, and I can try to find the link later on and post it, but you can see, like, just look up 2024 election results by town, and you'll be able to see it just like a map in blue and red.
Yeah,
Okay.
so so let me just share this with you really quick here. So I just did a quick chat GPT, and for you guys who are on Zoom, you've got to get off of the screen where it's just me, and there should be a screen that you guys can see, and you should pin this every day if you're not seeing in a big screen what I'm sharing on the screen. But there should be two versions of me in your feed. One is going to be I'm sharing my screen right now, and one isn't. But for the one that is, right, I just did a quick chat GPT, and here's our state, and then here's find election results. So it does look like, and I don't know if every state does it, and then it looks like you can get it broken down literally, I don't know, into any way that you want to do it. So I don't know, check that and yeah, report back maybe.
Okay, because I was looking up Democrat and Republican. That was more what I was looking for versus election results, I guess.
Yeah, but I think it's going to break this down in here, Martin. And then KB just posted in here politico.com. I'll throw that up. That might give you some information as well.
All right, thank you.
But great topic. Just go ahead.
Sorry, I can do a little extra research on this, and I'll make sure that it gets into the agent resource template also.
All right, thank you. Yeah, this individual is very bent on
their politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just told our voter I'd try to get Jimmy Buffett to run for president, but unfortunately he's dead.
Well, we'll turn it over to Dan and Eric. Do you guys have anything in particular that you wanted to bring to the table this week that's going on in the world of finance? Maybe something that you guys saw this week on a deal that you're doing?
So I got something to talk about today because I was thinking about it, kind of going through our pipeline for the month, seeing what was closing, what's got issues, things like that. And I'm noticing a lot more of what we call non-QM loans. I don't see us talking about that a lot in here, so I wanted to bring it up. We're seeing probably my team's pipeline is up to about 25% of the loans that we're doing are these non-traditional loans. And what they basically do is they kind of fill some of those spots that regular traditional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VA don't cover, or the person doesn't qualify. So I'll give you a scenario. Client I just had, got all self-employed, owns a pizza parlor, got all of his documents, put it all together, got him qualified, and just wasn't enough money. Just wasn't enough purchase money, not going to find the house that he wants. He obviously makes a lot more money, just doesn't tell the government. So he doesn't want that little tiny house. He wants the big house. So we got his 12 months of bank statements from the business, and we went through and we were able to look at all of the actual money coming in, the deposits that are going in to his business bank statements. And then we were able to figure out an average. So each month we just tallied it up and then we divided it by 12. And we said, okay, here's your new income. We can go non-traditional, non-QM. In his case, he's looking at a single family. It was 10% down, which he had, not a big deal. And now he qualifies for the house that he wants. So it was, we had a conversation there, and he's open to it. The rates are not that far off, especially on a bank statement loan, from a regular conventional loan. They're within 0.25%. Other big thing we're seeing is investors buying multifamilies, and they're doing what's called the DSCR, which I'm sure you guys have actually heard of it. So the biggest thing about a DSCR is, number one, you don't have to verify income. So we know a lot of new landlords, they might have bought one or two other properties recently. Now maybe they just don't qualify for that next one. DSCR will allow them to qualify as long as they have good credit and the ability to put money down. The other actually cool thing about a DSCR investor purchase is they only require 20% down, whereas Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac actually require 25% down. So it's a little bit less money down. Granted, yep, rates again, a little bit higher on those because they're not verifying income, they're about 1% higher. But as long as the rents are covering the mortgage and there's profitability, that's really all that matters to investors on investment property. We all know that. It all comes down to money in, money out. Are we building equity? So there's definitely some opportunities out there. So, if you've got that client that maybe they're adamant, I'm going to my bank. They went to their bank, they couldn't get approved what they wanted, and they're self-employed. Good opportunity for us to have a conversation with them.
Anybody have any scenarios that they want to kind of throw out there that, could make sense for one of these non-QM loans? Or maybe you have a scenario, hey, we went non-QM with this scenario and it worked out really, really well. Anybody have anything like that to share? We might need to put up a poll to see what everybody calls their pizza places, but I definitely don't call it a pizza parlor, Eric. That's a Rhode Island thing, I assume.
I guess, I don't know. What do you call it?
I don't know. Pizza shop, pizza place, not a pizza parlor. Martin, go ahead.
So I have a client, and I'm just thinking maybe the bank statement on, but I don't know like exactly how much he has in there. Was working the whole time. He bought his business 6 months ago. So he's been and he's working for himself for 6 months, has a house he really, really likes. We seem to have an issue with the lending because he's only owned the business for 6 months. Would basically a bank statement loan be the only way to work? And if so, how much are we looking that he needs to have in the bank? Home is 440K.
So in his scenario, they do like to see 12 months of owning the business because it's so new. They want to see some sort of stability. So he would have to have the business for 12 months. And then if it's a single family and the credit's good, it would be a 10% down with a bank statement loan. So 44,000 of the 440.
Gotcha. Okay, but you guys still want him like at least 12 months, correct?
Yeah, they want to see 12 months of owning the business.
Okay.
We're going to want to see 12 months of business bank statement.
Yeah, I was hoping there was a way around it. That seems to be the same answer I'd be getting. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Dan, did you work this week or just Eric? What do you got going on, man? Did you do any deals? What do you got going?
Sorry guys, I was driving, so I was muted. Yeah, so yeah, busy this week. This week I did take a couple days. I trekked the family down to Florida for a few days, Monday, Tuesday. But yeah, no, we've been working, definitely. One real unique scenario that I've run into this week, and I don't know if I don't think I brought this up before. I have a lady who works as a caretaker, and she had been taking care of the same client for a few years, and the client passed away. Her client passed away while we are in process here on her loan, and because like she literally would care for him around the clock, and so her income was made up of maybe say 30% base income, but then like 70% like additional overtime. And unfortunately her client had just passed away, and now here we are looking to get closed, and now she's unfortunately been out of work for the last month because they're waiting for her to get another client. So we're now in a real unique scenario where it's through no fault of her or us or anything like that, but we're really, in this case, we're just really trying to push. She needs to get a new long-term client as soon as possible. So she's like all over her employer for that new assignment. But yeah, this is some type of scenario I don't think I've ever had really come up before, which is a real challenge right now.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, and hopefully she pulls through, and this employer pulls through, and we can move forward on it. But yeah, there's just so many different scenarios, and that's when we've got these guys on Friday, we want you guys to kind of share the different little things that can come up, or the weird mistakes that a buyer makes, so that we can hopefully try and educate our buyers and not have them make the same stuff. So, thanks for sharing that one, Dan. Chris, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I got it.
So I have a really weird one. It's a seller. So I have the seller and it's off market, and we are going for payoff, and they have a SAM, a shared appreciation mortgage. So they had bought the house from the mother who was dying, and now it turns out where they thought that they owed 160,000, they owe like 350,000 because they took some sort of deferred amount, put it on the end, and it's that Sam. And the attorney's still working at it. The attorney they picked is not one I would have picked. It's not a fighter. And I have much, much concern that this is about to fall apart. So I'd love to hear anything on that. Boys.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before, Chris. That's the first time for me. It just says it's a home, I'm just ChatGPT here. It's a home loan where the lender offers the borrower. I can actually just put this up for you guys. It's a home loan where the lender offers the borrower a lower interest rate or reduced monthly payments in exchange for a portion of the home's future appreciation when it is sold or refinanced.
Correct. And so what
Yeah.
happened, I'm believing, is that there was deferred payment during 2020 COVID, and that they were playing with something, and that they took the amount that they had not paid, shoved it on the end, and then did this Sam. And somehow it's going to Sam them right out of this. So I'm hoping not. The husband thinks not, but it's not looking like that. So if anybody had any experience, that would be great.
So the layman's terms kind of a SAM loan is basically the banks that offer these, they say, we'll give you a slightly lower interest rate, so you'll have a lower payment. And then in exchange, they usually take about 25% of whatever equity you gain. So if you bought the house 20 years ago for 100 grand, you did well, and they gave you a nice low rate and you were happy, and then you forgot about it. You forgot about this deal you made with the devil. And now here you are trying to sell your house that was worth 100,000 is now worth, say, 500,000. Or you've got $400,000 you thought was yours. And this shared appreciation mortgage has got their hand out going, no, remember, we gave you a lower rate. We didn't make money on you every month like we should have. You now owe us 25% of that profit that you made. So where's our 100 grand back? So that's kind of how most shared work, and it's not always 25%. It could be whatever agreement they made, but that's kind of the layman's terms of how it works.
It is 25%. I read that in his thing, like as much as I could do my due diligence. But like if you looked at his bank statement and saw his payoff, like what he owed, it did say the 160 and it said nothing about this Sam loan. So this is definitely a big punch in the gut.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to when they took it out, I'm sure they were told whether they maybe understood it or didn't understand it, but they did it. And unfortunately, they signed that contract. And I think that the only conversation you can really have for them is, listen, I know it's not a good place for you to be in, and you got to kind of bite the bullet and pay them now, because what are you going to do? Are you just going to wait? Because your house is only going to continue to go up and you're going to owe them more. It's not going to stop. This isn't like hey, for 20 years, we want to take your appreciation. This is till the end of time. So if they owe X dollar today, well, in 5 years, they're going to owe more.
Well, and the worst part is it was 2020 and they bought from the mother who was, getting worse and worse in her age. And they bought it for like nothing, like from her. You know what I mean? They paid like 160. It's worth 350 all day long, 400. And in COVID, it would have been worth it as well. So here they thought they were getting a deal. They're really, and it puts them in a short sale. So we're really like, yeah.
Well, that's the advertising of the internet. They probably talked to us during COVID and we offered him a 3%, and this guy offered him a 2%. But now he's getting paid. That's they go on the internet and they just want to try to find a better deal, but they don't read the fine print. Unfortunately, this is what can happen. Luckily it's an outlier. It's probably not something we see all the time. But yeah, they definitely were not, probably shouldn't have been doing that specific type of loan based on the purchase price they were doing, because it was a family member. If they had a full understanding of how it would work, there's no way anybody would sign that. because they probably day one already owed the bank $100,000.
Yeah, and PHH is the name. So if anybody comes across that mortgage company, PHH, look deep.
Martin, I see your hand up. What do you got?
Just quick question, what, like, as Chris was saying, it's a short sale now, so how much money let me guess, they get their money first and then whatever's left over is the seller responsible for? I'm just curious how that works.
How a short sale works?
Well, no. In this situation where it's like the bank, has a, a vested interest in it, basically.
Oh, they'd have to come to the table with money. They'd have to come to the table with about $10,000, and clearly they don't have any money. So it's not going to happen. I'd have to go through starting the whole short sale process, which
Gotcha.
she's like, I'll just let them take it. So it's just not going to
Gotcha. Okay,
happen
thank you.
after 6 weeks of busting my ass. I mean, no resentments here or anything, but
Future business, Chris. Future business.
Hey, Chris, I'm just thinking out loud here. If I understand the way a foreclosure works, the bank is going to take it back, but I guess is it the first bank or the second bank? Right? It's two separate mortgages.
no, it's just one. It's the same one.
Oh, it's the same one.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if there was a second that would take that risk. Okay, never mind.
No, it's one. And let's face it, there was one on the street next to me. It was in foreclosure for 6 years. Those people are still squatting there. Like, it's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, here's the problem is these banks, when they go to foreclosure, don't look at the reality. And they're probably not going to want to sign up for a $10,000 loss now, but I can guarantee you their losses of taking over the property and reselling it just from agent commissions alone are going to be greater than 10 grand. So it's like they should sign on the dotted line right now for a $10,000 short sale, but Yeah.
Should is the most magical word of 2025.
Right.
So
Yeah.
many things. Should.
yeah, it's just, it's all computer based and illogical.
So we went fairly deep here on the Sam loan here. Did anybody just have something off topic, just something you're struggling with on one of your deals right now that you just need some guidance, or something that you learned from one of your transactions that you want to share with the group? Anybody have something funky going? Natalia, do you have your hand up there? I think you do.
I do. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hold on, I'm trying to turn my camera on. I think I have the camera on.
Look at the
How you
guests.
doing?
The guests that know how the game is played and ask their questions with the camera on. You get my special. What do you get? We'll give you one of those.
Thank you.
What's your question?
Thank you. So I just had I met with a client last weekend, and there was a language barrier and a cultural barrier between us. He's in his early 30s, young business owner, immigrated from Pakistan maybe 10 years ago, and super nice guy. I took him to see a house in Windsor. He loved it. He wanted to put an offer in right away. So I said, let me run the numbers for the area and see, how we should go in, and I'll give you a call later and we'll talk about how we should, approach this. And he said he has a friend on the phone. Has a friend that he's taking advice from. Older man from Pakistan. He has several rental properties, has been doing real estate investing for 20 years. He basically interviewed me, and which was fine. That went well. And he said that he suggested that we submit an offer 50,000 under asking price. I totally disagreed. I said, I don't think we should do that. And I, just quickly looked at what sold in the area recently to show him. And he said, I'm sorry, I'm not interested in your research right now. No offense, but I really, he restated his qualifications to me and told me what he knows and all this stuff. And he's like, I think we should just do this right now. And I again disagreed, and I went to my client and I said, I don't think you should do this. I think if you really like it, I think you really need to, at least come in at asking price at least. Like we can't, it was 450 and he wanted to go in at 400. So, and the house was in perfect condition. Nothing was wrong with it. It was move-in ready, beautiful home. So they were adamant on 400 right now, put in an offer. So I submitted the offer. Of course, it wasn't accepted. They basically, just sent us a generic email like no, and they were going with someone else. So I told them I had to deliver that information, and they were just, the friend was like, why do you think this happened? And I'm like, because, like I said, we went in too low. I'm sure they got several offers at what they were asking for, And he's like, from there, telling me what to do. Like, you need to call the agent. You need to tell them, he wants to write a love letter, which, we can't do. Saying, all their background, they're, coming from Pakistan, and they, he's waiting on the wife and daughter, and they have a brand new baby and all this stuff. And it didn't work out. So basically I had to tell him, listen, I did talk to the agent. I did let them know that you wanted to, your height, what your highest and best was. And we're basically at a backup offer right now, if that even, is the case. But just wanted to share, I had I called for some advice on how to handle it. I think I spoke to Nicole. Just like, what do I do at this point? And she agreed that that was the best course of action. Just try to talk to the selling agent and just let her know the backstory on why our offer came in like that. And to possibly consider us as a backup if the, opportunity came up. So just wanted to share. I was a little
Yeah.
frustrated, but I think
Well,
that was the
there's
best
a
possible outcome.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of nuggets in there that I just want to make sure that we are explaining and talking about best case scenarios. So the first thing when we're going to come in really, really low like this is an in-depth conversation with that listing agent if we can get them on the phone. And maybe even giving some of the back story of the situation with your client. And hey, there's a little bit of a language barrier there, maybe some cultural barriers, and this is where they want to be. Right. And I've pulled the comps and I understand that it's higher, but, we're not trying to offend you. We're just trying to get the negotiation started. Because if we don't start the negotiation, we can't end it and get ourselves a deal. Right. So just making sure like this is one of those scenarios where we absolutely can't just send an email over and submit our offer. There's got to be a good dialogue there, which it sounds like you did pretty well there.
And I tried to tell him, like, let me call the agent first. And he's like, Natalia, with all due respect, I want you to send it right now. I'm like, they're not even going to look at it twice. Like, I would love to have had a conversation. It may have gone differently, but they were adamant, like, send it right now. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a hard
And
position.
the other thing is, I've definitely noticed sometimes you could be as good of an agent as possible. And I'm just seeing one of the comments that you get to pick who you want to work with, right? At the end of the
Right.
day, right? So you get a couple of options moving forward with this client. One is, can you find somebody within your agent network that is of the same background? Because there is just a trust factor there. Period. End of
Right.
story. Whether you like it or not, right? If we can find somebody that speaks the language, is possibly from Pakistan, the agent network is fairly big, especially, with where we are at Real Broker, we've got, 25,000 agents, right? So sometimes pulling in another agent, giving up a piece of the commission, getting the language thing down can really make a difference. And you can go from 0 to 100 really quick with a client when they get that comfort level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one option, right? Let's maybe do a little bit of research. Do we want to pull somebody in that can maybe make a better connection? So it's still going to be your
Yeah.
client, but we're going to have, whether they're translating or they're just, getting some of the just cultural differences. Every culture has a different way. If they've bought
Right.
property in Pakistan, it could have been a completely different experience from how you buy property here in the United States. And so if we can find somebody that can help with that, I think that's your best course of action. If the client's
Okay.
not willing to kind of go down that road, then we just move on, right? There's
Right.
thousands of clients and transactions to be had out there. We don't have to work
Yeah.
with every single one if we don't feel like they're taking our advice. So um, I don't know. Did anybody else want to comment? And I really appreciate you coming on, Natalia, and sharing the story.
Um,
Anybody else have a comment for Natalia? Martin?
one thing I sometimes do if I know they're from another country is I'll just do some quick research on the culture. I had one customer, from Brazil, straight from Brazil, looked up like joking around like what's the biggest drink they drink and stuff like that. And it's, just, talking about that, that'll get you, at least you kind of like, let's just say your foot in the door so you can get to know them better. And I had the same scenario yesterday. Gentleman's from Canada, showed him a few homes. He wanted to put an offer in, $35,000 under asking. Did the same thing what Steve said, called. Um, he wasn't as responsive as probably your seller's agent was. Basically told me to do my job, and I was nice. I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say, well, if you did your job, your house wouldn't be still on the market 4 months later. But just yeah, that phone call is definitely a good thing. And find out, like, I was trying to find out where my client was getting his research from, because I'm like, where did you come up with this number? I was telling him, Zillow said one thing, sent him a couple comps. I'll hear from him this morning if he wants to up his number. I mean, that's all you can really do.
Yeah, thank you.
One of
I
the
think I'll
nuggets
send him
that
some numbers and then just see. I think he's gonna be okay. I think it kind of needed to happen. Like he had to see like his friend's advice wasn't as sound as it, as he wanted it to be. I think he has good intentions, but just doesn't have, the knowledge of the market. So I think it kind of had to happen, and hopefully we can, we'll have a better experience from here. But and if we don't, I think I'll definitely take your advice about finding someone that's more aligned with him culturally.
yeah, the culture thing.
And can
And
I
I
just
love
say that I think you did a great job. Great job.
Thank
Your
you.
calm demeanor, the way you speak, the way that you were saying it. There's nothing you could have done different. And like you just said, probably had to happen. And now he can see a little bit of reality. But like Steve said, if they continue to disrespect you, chuck those people.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think too, like just them trusting women in these positions, I think is a thing too. He's asking me how old I am and things like that. And I'm just like, okay, I didn't take it personally, but I kind of saw, when we didn't agree, it was like, no, he was like, the whole no offense, but okay, now you're gonna be offensive. So but it was fine. I think yeah, I definitely like I said, he's the nicest guy. The client is. He's the nicest guy. And I really, enjoy working with him. So well, I think we'll get around it, but just unfortunate he didn't get the house he wanted.
I had a client with a similar background, and I spoke with the listing agent and said, "Look, he likes to haggle, so we're going to come in low, but if you can, you know, send back an offer that you want." And so we went. Eventually, we got a home, and he got the price that he wanted. Um, both of them, I should say, got to a point where it was an acceptable offer. But it's really about talking with the agent, like Steve said,
Mm-hmm.
letting them know, you know, their situation and who they are and where they come from, um, and being able to, get through it.
Linda, I see your hand up as well. What did you have for us?
Yeah, so in Naperville, Illinois, where Jeffrey and I did years of business, there's a very high concentration of folks from this part of the world. And additionally, we had the great benefit of having sort of an in-house lender who too was from this part of the world. And she gave us a talk and she said, there are just some things that you need to know about folks coming from this part of the world. And number one is their parents would shoot them dead if they didn't come in with an offer that's at least $50,000 below the asking price. It would bring shame, multi-generational shame to the family. This is how they do business. And so you need to know that going in. They can be the nicest people when you're talking to them just as human beings, but when it comes to the way they do business, they don't care. So it's it's just a very different mentality and how they approach doing business. And it doesn't matter if they're wanting to purchase an investment home where they'd be much more disinterested, that or have less emotional tie to the property. Then it doesn't matter if it's that or if it's the home that they want to live in. They just default to this particular way of conducting business, and it can be super, super frustrating. It can be humiliating because some of the offers that you have to present, I mean, you're just like, oh my gosh, don't shoot the messenger, right? But they're going to conduct themselves. I can assure you, when it comes to the home inspections, all the way through the transaction, you can anticipate that there will be a consistency in the way that they're going to handle the transaction. So you kind of have to gird your loins for this one, because it can be really tough. But also, and so we had some of our agents saying to the lender, well, should we refer them to a lender who would appreciate and understand these cultural differences better? And she said, absolutely not. Pakistanis do not want another Pakistani to know their true financial situation. They're very, very proud, and so they like to work with service providers, lenders, and realtors who are not, in fact, from their own culture, because they feel like it gives them some leverage, if that makes sense, in how they're conducting themselves. But they're very private about their finances. So it was a really, really interesting conversation that we got to have with this lender, who was able to shed some interesting light. And you also, if you are going to refer them to a Pakistani lender, make sure that you also offer them an option of someone who is not, because you never want to be accused of steering, even if you think you're doing it because it's in their best interest, right? That's clear steering.
Okay.
We don't get to take a decision on what is right for a client just because we think that, oh, this makes the most sense for them. That would be like saying, oh, you want to go live in Greentown because all the green people live there and you'll be much happier there. So just, if you are going to refer them to a Pakistani lender, make sure you offer up another lender who maybe has had experience working with people from this particular culture, but who is not necessarily from the culture, if that makes sense.
Understand.
So, okay, so that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much.
Well, we were all over the board today, and this was a great way to finish it up. Natalia, thanks for sharing your story. I will tell you, if you want to get a little bit of Pakistani culture, there is a great documentary out there right now. I think it's just called it might just be called India versus Pakistan, the greatest sports rivalry. But a good friend of mine is from India, and he's big into cricket, and it's a really, really cool way to kind of experience culture over there, and it might just bring you a little bit closer to your client. So if you're up for a documentary or you like sports, that's a great one. So let's end like we always do. We went a little over today, but let me just share what we've got available for trainings today. Let's see, 4 different live trainings available today: Power Players, Agent Mastermind, how to deliver a 5-star buyer presentation, mastering the art of seller services, and the thriving buyer agent. So a bunch of opportunities. Really appreciate all the interaction today. If you're watching us on social, please make sure that you register for the call. Join us on Zoom so that you can actually get your questions in, get your questions and thoughts heard a little bit better than you can on social. But by all means, share the show, invite others. Let's grow this. And I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend, and we'll do it again on Monday morning. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everybody.